Hello, everyone. In Mantra's office, sitting with Jean Patrick Mullin. Yeah, everybody followed what's happened. I'm here to confirm that this is him in person. He's in Dubai.
You don't give the date?
I just congratulate him for the fact of being brave, going out during the hot period, talking about what happened. Probably he didn't have the full picture by then during previous interview. I'm trying today to get an update to clarify what happened and hopefully to clarify what will happen, what's the future of Mantra and the real world asset tokenization in the UAE. So hello to.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you.
So 5 days now, and I'm sure that it was really a tough period on you.
Yeah.
So I don't want to repeat any of the previous interviews, whatever you did, but I would like to get an update. What do you have to say now about what happened and what's the latest status?
So obviously the last 5 days is crazy. The last couple of days have been, very challenging, very tough for the community, for our investors, for the team, and we've been, doing our best to transparently communicate what we know and what we're going to be doing, to rectify the situation. We've been presenting some information about our statement of events. I think we put that out, 2 days ago, roughly, which shows fundamentally that some of the initial accusations are categorically false, right? There's a few things that people were putting out that, this was some sort of insider rug pull, the team was selling or the investors were selling.
This is clear now.
This is
neither the
investors or the team have sold anything. That's been publicly verified. Statements have been made publicly. On-chain analysis and evidence has been put out there into the market. Even just to double down on the team not doing it, we put out a transparency report with all of our wallet holdings the week prior. It makes no sense that we would do something like that and then go do a scheme like this the following Sunday. I mean, it's crazy, right? So that's a very important, first point to get out there. What we have seen through analysis of third parties, there's been some good, trading analysis of, the movement of tokens and the pricing and how the spot and perps markets were, impacted during these trading hours, because it was a frenzied, 2-3 hours where this all happened. And, many of these things happen like that. And I think what we've kind of seen is that, there's still questions to be answered, and without support from exchanges, which we've opened, our arms to say, hey, let's collaborate on figuring this out, we're not going to be able to have the final picture. What we can see is that, there was, excess leverage in the system. But from our understanding, this was well within the terms of business and the rules of these various different exchanges. And one thing that you can see is that, collateral was on one exchange and eventually got moved over to another exchange. And the one exchange reduced collateral ratios.
You're talking Binance reducing the collateral ratios.
One exchange reduced collateral and moved it to another exchange that where the collateral ratio did not change, right? There was still high LTV. And you can see this where tokens move from one to the other. And basically that just meant that risk moved from one to the other, but the unwind on one was not as aggressive as it was on the other. And it seems to us that there was some, maneuver that allowed the price impact to be great enough that it caused some sort of cascading liquidation, which caused this massive.
What triggered Binance to reduce the collateral?
I would assume that their internal risk department said that they don't want this position of this size with this sort of collateral on it. Because it was, token on token, right? Or it was, utilizing obviously if the collateral's in Bitcoin,
they would be happy.
Maybe not as big of an issue. But if it's, then they say, okay, hey, this is, this is potentially an issue, right? And, I think that kind of got unwound. But, again, that's further for these exchanges' internal risk teams to say what risk they have. It's not, And that's the other things. People ask me, like, what could we do about it? Or what could we have done about it? And I say my biggest regret is sleeping on Sunday night, because if I hadn't been asleep, maybe we could have acted a little bit faster. But on the same side, this was done within the terms and conditions or terms of business of these platforms. So unless there is a fundamental shift in the way that the industry operates, where, because again, like if you put this all on chain, if you look at Aave as an example, when people are taking loans, you can see the health factor of the loan. You can see when it's getting close, and people go and make their own decisions based off of that. But people weren't able to make their own decision based on this because no one knew what was happening, right? So, that's something I think is, a reason why having, transparent information on chain or just enhanced transparency in general is an important thing. And, transparency will be a fundamental, talking point and critical action that we're going to have to, do to enhance, our credibility and our trust and regain that in the market as we go forward, which is what we're aiming to do.
So, who's handling the risk monitoring with Mantra? That's many. The team didn't have any idea. Yes, it is Sunday evening, but somehow this technology allows you to just some alerts, something is happening.
Well, so, we were like in full
operating in different times.
Well, in full so it's basically what happened. Like in full transparency, we had exchange partners reach out asking us like, do you know who these wallets are that are depositing tokens on the exchange? I answered truthfully, I have no idea. I don't know who these wallets are. And that was basically it, right? So if you don't know whose wallets these are, what they're going to, and there's not a transparent flow of information, then it's not really possible for me to prevent anything on that side, right? The way that it ended up working is, I was in South Korea. We were hosting an RWA summit on Monday, and I probably went to bed around 12:30 local time, midnight. And like I said, I wish I hadn't gone to bed.
That's why they've been.
And at 5, so I had my alarm set for 6 because I wanted to get up and we had a bunch of stuff going before the conference. I wanted even to go to the gym. And the hotel woke me up at 5 because they'd been trying to reach me. And, fortunately we have people in many different time zones. So it wasn't like there wasn't people working on this, but obviously like the CEO being asleep is not an ideal situation. But they were able to reach me. They were able to reach, Peter, our COO, and Steve and a few other key members of the team and start putting together, some form of communication and action. Because in the very initial hours, there was all kinds of, misinformation and FUD and all kinds of things floating around. Like the Telegram was deactivated. They used a screenshot of a Telegram that had 62 people in it. Our Telegram has hundreds of thousands of people in it. Never got deactivated. So there's just all this type of things that in the heat of the moment it was intense and it was crazy. And again, we did our best to react as quickly as possible within the confines of just the reality of the situation.
So token moved from exchange A to exchange B, where the holder of the token benefits from a loan from exchange B, then we went back to exchange A.
Most likely.
And short on.
I don't think that happened. Yeah. I have not seen, well, for one, I have not seen the movement from exchange of dollar from exchange B to exchange A, so I cannot corroborate that. That's just an inferred statement. And it would make little sense, in my opinion, to short if you're the one making that move in the first place, because you're using collateral to support your lever position on the exchange A in the first place. So you'd be shorting yourself twice. You see what I mean? So I think there's effectively a third party. And I don't know who that is. I mean, that's again, and by the way, I'm highly confident that this is not one person. There's many people who are,
Coordination?
I don't know if it was coordinated, but, I would say that there's many people who have been involved and hurt from this because I've had many people reach out.
And it's clear that your market maker wasn't.
Categorically, no. Categorically clear that they did not.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to make that abundantly clear. Sharuk is not a market maker, but Laser Digital is one of our main investors. They are also one of our market making liquidity partners, and they have not sold a single token, and they've been highly supportive this entire time. We've been working with them, with Sharuk and others, to be as unified as humanly possible, and they've been incredibly supportive. So I know for a fact that no one did anything wrong here.
Okay. So one of maybe the highlights that everybody was talking about in the last couple of days, and probably no one did before the collapse, but somehow this is the moment. They're blaming the Mantra creating or mirroring C20 token to L1, their own L1 blockchain.
Yep.
So was it a mistake?
No, I don't think so. Well, for one, I think this is a complete red herring in this situation where people are using tokenomics and they're using other situations to try to put pressure and create a narrative that this was us doing something wrong.
With 888 million blah 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 token
Yep.
on the ERC.
On ERC, and those are 99.99% in circulation.
Yeah. So then,
And they have been for years. That's been, that's almost a 5-year-old token, right? So in August of this year, it's 5 years old. The mainnet was launched in October of last year. And, the exchanges where, we believe that a lot of this activity went down, which are the biggest liquidity venues, don't support the mainnet yet. They don't, right? So how could that have even been a mainnet problem in the first place? Nothing to do. But again, this is just an easy, topic or narrative that's easy to catch on. It's easy to understand. It's easy to blame and point a finger without having to do a lot of research. And then there's been pundits online who are pointing to this mirror bucket, which is effectively just the bridge. It's just the bridge from ERC to mainnet. And so far we've already had, if you look on the ERC side, you can look on Etherscan, exchange number 1, wallet number 1, mirror bucket or burn address is the wallet number 2. Staking product,
it's
wallet number 3.
talking in the language.
Because the thing is, they've used
everyone understands.
Yeah.
No? You didn't double the circulation. You just created a
That's
new
correct.
token, and whenever you're bringing any ERC22 mainnet, kind of
1 for 1.
1 for 1, so you're burning the
You burn the ERC, and then it becomes a mainnet coin.
main
That's exactly right.
vested mainnet.
If it's liquid on ERC, it becomes liquid on mainnet. But the other supply that is mainnet only is vested.
Vest.
Yeah, and that's been public for the entire time we've ever talked about it, and it has a couple different buckets.
Yeah.
So again, people pointed to this as this false flag, red herring of this is where a lot of activity was taking
This
place.
is the biggest acquisition, actually.
Now it is.
You're doubling. Yeah, now it.
Yeah, now it is.
This is what I really not a fan of these type of hyping big things. But
Yeah.
everybody was happy with it before this crisis. So here maybe I'm coming back later on VARA, but did VARA raise any flag on the double ERC20 mainnet token during the process of that?
Oh, I mean, we were transparently sharing all the information with them about tokenomics and whatnot, so they were able to assess and understand, and they were able to see how the whole process and communication worked. Same with exchanges, by the way.
True.
All the exchanges from the beginning of this idea of having these two tokens merge has been transparently communicated with investors, community members, regulators, and exchanges. Everyone has had full communication about everything from day one. What I think people now are coming in is they don't look at the historical communication, and they just are able to pick up bits and pieces that is a catchy, easy, thing for them to latch onto that, points the finger and points blame. But if you actually talk to anyone who's been in the community for this whole time, you can understand that this has been a very well-received community initiative from day one. Because in the end of the day, if we had gone and taken OHM for ERC only, and what we initially wanted to do is create a completely separate token just for the chain, we wouldn't have a situation where we're even talking about Mantra or what we were going to call the chain Omega at all, because it wouldn't have.
Be a different token.
It was going to be a different project where we'd have some sort of token supply airdrop back to the community, but the OHM holders in this instance, because we were finally able to bring those two concepts together, that created Mantra as it is today. That created Mantra as this RWA1 behemoth. And without that, I don't think we would have had the success that we had. And I don't think we will have the success that we're going to have going forward once we pick up the pieces, continue building, and continue to regain trust.
Going further, continue building. So we've been most the first and the happiest to announce agreement with the MAG properties, but it was somehow business in the making, let me say. It wasn't said otherwise in the announcement that there is a plan. Plans means, and everybody who's listening later to us, plans mean you have to be aligned with the regulation, you have to be aligned with what the regulator wants, and I would say, and not on the defense of much, John, I would say the market wasn't ready. Tokenization wasn't something out of the box, and there's a lot of stakeholders in town, and they needed to align.
Yep.
And the moment Mantra, and we're talking February probably, or January or February, you get
Yeah.
the license.
February.
So the moment they release Mantra, VARA released a license, and then it was the moment when then things can be done. So
Yep.
the question here, Jean, so everybody's saying there's nothing whatsoever activities on the mainstream. There's no real-world asset tokenizer yet. So I just did this introduction to give you the floor.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe because people from outside looking, okay, we are the biggest real-world asset tokenization platform, and you have nothing on your chain. Yes, yet I can do it. I'm building.
Yeah.
I have already a lot of deals in place.
Yep.
And we're moving forward when the moment is right.
Yep.
In terms of so what's the position now?
Yeah.
With the NAC property, with the DLT.
Yeah, so right now, maybe I'll talk more about the TVL side of things and kind of the activities. So that's been a constant point of contention, I think, about like, hey, was this thing from a narrative perspective front running the substance or surpassing the substance? Maybe don't use the term front running. And, I think where we came in is we did have a lot of substance actually. We had these major partnerships with big institutional players. We have strong institutional backing and support. We had, major deals and announcements, and we had licensing. We had done things the right way, and we've shown that we built over multiple cycles and multiple years, and we're, a strong team with, really capable people, right? So I think that in itself is substantive. Full stop. When you look at the market, we were really the first mover for an RWA blockchain, RWA L1. There was another one, Provenance, but they're not really a crypto native supported chain. So they were probably the first to actually have a mainnet, but crypto people don't use it at all, which is fine, right? I'm not throwing shade, it's just a fact. We were the first one that was able to get institutional credibility and retail and crypto native individuals to be like, hey, this is interesting. And being the first mover in this, what is perceived as this multi-trillion-dollar RWA opportunity, it does drive some sort of speculative valuation and narrative behind it, right? And, other projects that are doing the same thing now haven't launched anything. They don't have a mainnet. They don't have a chain. In many cases, they don't even know if they have a testnet, right? So we were a first mover, and I think that does demand some significance. That being said, we launched the mainnet at the end of last year, the end of October. We've been working very diligently to build out the ecosystem, to bring more applications on the product or on the chain, to get more TVL, both on the DeFi native permissionless side. And we had a few different really strong initiatives that were coming, like the RWA Accelerator, the ecosystem fund, and actually a couple different interesting acquisitions that we were working on, which, we're still going to be, moving forward with as many things as possible there, even with this setback. And then on the RWA side, we have a multi-billion-dollar pipeline. And we're continuing to work with our partners, and we're continuing to try to move forward as effectively as possible. Make sure that they understand that, the fundamentals of Mantra have not changed. Right? The business is sound. The financials are sound. We're here to stay. The team hasn't gone anywhere. We're still building. We're still taking this head on. There's, a public image, issue and narrative issue that we need to continue to work around. We need to continue to work with our exchange partners, continue to work with our regulators and make things right? That's my responsibility to do right now, but it's also my responsibility to keep moving the business forward. And I think one of the big learnings from this quarter particularly was that bringing RWAs on chain and doing it the right way, and the way that actually has some enforceability between the real world and the on-chain world is hard. That's hard in the first place, right? You can create a token for anything. That's easy. I could go and create tokens all over the place and say that they have value. Does that mean they actually have value in the real world? No. In most cases, not, right? That's the challenge of RWA. So challenge number one. Challenge number two is getting it recognized. Because people say, oh, you only have 4 million TVL. Well, where does that number come from? TVL in the crypto native context is the number that shows up on DeFi Llama.
Yes.
Right? And then that goes to CoinGecko, that goes to CoinMarketCap, and that's your TVL number. CoinGecko has a very particular way of rating TVL. They also have a very particular way of rating RWA TVL, and they don't count it, which we found out halfway through the quarter because they changed how they were counting it, right? And we've had to kind of adjust and work around that. And there are RWA assets on Mantra, tens of millions, if not hundreds, and there's a big pipeline behind it that's coming. But again, just to your point, like we got this license in February, and these things do take time, both on the RWA side, as well as on this ecosystem side and the permissionless world. And our challenge is we have to build both at the same time. Again, if we focused on one side, let's just call it permissioned RWA, or the other side, permissionless DeFi, you can do one or the other really well, and there's a lot of projects that have done that, but we're trying to do both well at the same time, and that is fundamentally challenging.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's really where we've been focusing, and that's where we have been making, ample progress. And, it's incredibly unfortunate that this occurred on the timing that it did, because we had major things coming in and being announced this week, which obviously have now had to been put on hold. But, we still have our resolve. We're still incredibly focused and dedicated to making this right for our investors, our shareholders, our token holders, anyone who has a stake in Mantra, anyone who has a stake in the UAE, anyone who has a stake in the Web3 ecosystem here. Like, I'm here now for a reason. I came here as soon as possible to make sure that people here know we're not messing around and we're not running and we're not hiding. And, we want to make this right. And we want to work with people in the ecosystem to make this right.
So talking about the investors once again, so Shuruk, I had the chance to sit with Shuruk guys, and I understood that their position in Mantra, this is earlier.
Yeah.
So they are equity investors
Yep.
as well as token.
Yes.
So is it the same, and does it apply the same for all your investors? All your investors are equity investors?
Not everyone. Yeah. Some.
Who owns Mantra now, entity, the legal entity?
So the main shareholders are, the team and investors like.
Talking about the token.
Yeah. The team, the founders, the team, and, large investors like Shuruk and Laser Digital. And they have been incredibly, incredibly supportive and helpful during this time.
Technically speaking, outside the team, Shuruk and Laser Digital are the biggest loser in this situation, because they have shares already, they have stake in it.
Absolutely have stake. And, they've been in the war room with us, trying to rebuild, trying to support the narrative and get the image corrected and get the right story out there. So, I'm thankful to all of them.
And the business is liquid.
Business is solvent. Yeah. The business is a going concern. We have capital. We're going to continue.
You don't need any cash injection.
No. I mean, we're going to raise additional capital just to continue to shore up the business, but that's not it's not an immediate need, if that makes sense. It's more of a future sustainability. And to be honest, this was plans we had anyway, right? So this doesn't really change, much from that perspective.
Okay. So back to exchanges, your exchanges partner. So the ERC20 token was listed in different exchanges,
yep.
Amongst them Binance and OKX.
Yes.
So token wasn't listed on any exchange yet, or only Bybit?
You mean the mainnet? Yeah, the mainnet was Bybit, Gate, BitGet, and Ascendex. And Kraken is the mainnet.
Okay. So why Binance didn't list the mainnet token?
It was in the process. All of these exchanges were in the process. Yeah.
So actually no exchange complained about both tokens were listed and those.
They were planning to. So generally how these integrations work for new chains, because we're already listed, right? And then we put out our own main.
They didn't raise any red flag. Okay, well, John, what are you doing? Why you're doing this? Why? No, because it is a normal procedure.
Normal procedure, and generally we are communicative with our exchange partners actively, and consistently giving them updates, consistently talking. And when this integration was happening, we were working with their tech teams to give them the technical specifications, working on how to make sure that they can, get help when they need to. And generally, I think the practice of some of the bigger exchanges is when you launch a new chain, they have a monitoring period where they want to make sure that the chain is active, the chain is stable, it doesn't have outages or issues, and we haven't.
So we talk about your investors, we talk about your partners, the exchanges. We didn't talk yet about your regulators. So how is your relation now with VARA?
I'll speak relatively carefully here, just because I want to make sure I'm not, overstating or anything. But, one of the first calls that we made when this was happening was VARA. We wanted to inform them of what was going on, and we've been in constant communication just to make sure that they know how we're communicating this to the market, that we're doing it transparently, professionally, and clearly, and that we want to provide information to, to market participants as well as to them when requested. And, we're always here to try to help make the situation right, because in the end of the day, people did get hurt, and it's our job to help make it right. Honestly, my job. I think if this was a stock, it would be my fiduciary duty to make it right, and it's not. But I do feel like I have fiduciary responsibility to token holders, and that's why I take this job and this community and these events so seriously. I mean, irrespective of this event, I take that seriously. And I think people who have been in our community for a long time, people who know me, have seen that that's just how I operate, and I stand by that.
So do they feel that they did anything wrong as regulator?
Who, us?
What,
Oh, did VARA do anything wrong?
what did you feel?
Oh, no, I
I know
don't.
you might be free not to answer this question, but did they raise any red flag before the speak?
Not that I'm aware of, but I would say that, in the confines of crypto operating as an international global business, this could be not specifically domiciled to.
But the ERC20 token was issued offshore. Right?
Oh, you mean to the token? Sorry, I thought, okay. No, they've never raised any issues with our token or anything. We've obviously communicated everything transparently, and they've asked questions during our application process of how does this all work. We've walked them through it. But again, a lot of the misinformation out there now is about, did these new tokens actually do anything for this situation or perpetuate the situation? And I think we would categorically deny it, and I think it's verifiable and completely accurate to say that it had nothing to do with this.
So VARA are following. You might be in a position where you know what happened on your chain, you know what happened on, and you can see what happened on the token.
Yeah.
Every exchange can see what happened on their side, but VARA probably can see everything.
I believe so, and then they should.
Do you know?
That's the whole point.
Do you know if they already requested data from exchanges involved?
I'm not aware. I'm not sure it's my place to comment.
Because for me, it is interesting. It is about VARA. It's not about Montrez only. It is about VARA. It is about real-world asset tokenization and why. It is about a real estate economy that has been like they were not keen. What is the motivation for us to do this tokenization? We're doing well, we're selling well, and things are moving. But the moment we saw that Dubai Land Department moving in, VARA giving licenses, and things are moving, this happened, and it will be really a shock for the industry.
Yeah.
So what's next? I know things will take time.
Yeah.
No one expect the token to fly back again at that height.
Yeah.
I do understand, I'm glad first to meet you in person. Your team is around still.
Yep.
Mobilizing is still.
Yep.
And your exchange partners are still working with you, and your investors are supporting it.
Yep.
So I won't say it's an ideal situation, but in the situation that we are lucky to have
Absolutely
all this around you. So
I agree. I mean, I think we're fortunate that over the course of our history we've built credibility and trust and rapport with those key partners that you mentioned that have allowed us to stand up and take this and face this horrible situation head on. I think our quick response, our transparent communication, and going out there and telling our side of the story as quickly as possible, while it hasn't completely, taken away, FUD and misinformation, it has given a clear story and narrative into the market that people are starting to understand and research and being verified by third parties, which is important. And we'll continue to do so. I mean, someone asked me earlier, is there light at the end of the tunnel? And I said, yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but this is still a long tunnel. Right? We have a long, long, long way to go. But we're prepared and ready to, be there for as long as it takes. And with the support of, investors and community and partners and whatnot, we're committing to transparently provide information whenever possible. In many instances, the standard of transparent information in crypto is little to none at best. And we want to take that further and set a new standard of what should be required. And I think that in an unfortunate situation as this is, there is an opportunity to raised the bar in terms of information requirements and information presented into the market to instill trust in investors and protect investors. In the end of the day, that's really what this should be about. But it's not only going to be us. This will be an industry thing that needs to happen. And it won't just be token projects. It'll be exchanges and trading firms and all these type of things which need to provide more information. And we hope to be a leading part of that movement, I guess, if you can call it. But in the meantime, obviously, we need to work on supporting our community right now. We have talked about different mechanisms or avenues that we want to pursue. I've already put out in the market that I'll burn all my team tokens and things of this nature, which now maybe that's a slightly hasty thing to say, but I just wanted to make the community understand that I'm serious and I'm willing to do this for them because Mantra is my baby, Mantra is my life, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right, basically. But now in the fallout, people are like, well, don't burn your tokens because then you're going to have no incentive. I fundamentally disagree. My incentive is that my name is on the line here, my reputation is on the line here, and that I do this because I love it, not because of the financial element to it. But it is a fair point and something that is being discussed. But the general concept of some sort of burn or buyback or longer vesting or longer unlocking or milestone-based achievements or whatever, all these things can be something that instills more trust and investor confidence, and we're committed to that. Working on some sort of buyback program is also...
Will you need financial support for the buyback from your investors?
Well, we're working on that program right now. So we're working on it actively at the moment, and I hope we'll be able to provide some more details on that as we go. But I will say one thing: we have had investors reaching out, asking for more information about how they can participate and how they can be supportive, new investors as well as old ones, which has been really good to see. And it shows that our investors are sticking by us for a reason. It's because they believe in what we're doing. They believe in the team.
Talking again about your investors, do they still trust John leadership?
Yes.
So we don't expect leadership change with Mantra?
No, I don't think so. No, actually, no, so.
Yeah.
No, I think the reason that the investors back, one of the reasons why they invest and why they back and support and continue to support now is because they know that we are a team of high integrity, that we're going to do every single thing we can to make this right. I think Shane always says that Shahrukh will always back you until the founder stops trying, right? As long as the founder's there and continues to try, they're going to help, they're going to support. And I've definitely seen that. But, just the way that I am, whether it's through hard-headedness, stubbornness, naivete, or delusion, I just will never quit, ever, right? I'll run through whatever wall I need to, no matter what. And I've done that time and time again with Mantra, and we'll continue to do it going forward. And that conviction in what we're building, that conviction in our vision and our mission, as well as that trust in the team and our support and the foundation that we have, we can do anything. I fundamentally believe that we've been through a lot of ups and downs. Mantra's not a new business, and this is not my first rodeo. All right, I've been down and out a lot of times during my entrepreneurial experience, and while this has probably been the hardest week of my life, and definitely Monday was the worst day of my life, our resolve is not broken and we're not going anywhere.
You're glad to hear. You're glad to.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. And just maybe to close, again, we're looking to do what we can to make this right, and we appreciate all the support and people reaching out during this hard time, and we'll continue to keep everyone up to date on how this proceeds.